All right, hello all. Welcome to the London course. It's time. We'll be leaving soon. This video is to cover your homework, especially for the first 2 weeks of the course, when we'll be, online for the first week and then face-to-face for the second week. This video does not cover other travel issues, logistics, our course calendar, how to pack, or something like that, right? That we can do face-to-face. You can email me if you have looming questions there. We'll be covering that in class face-to-face. So this is a homework video. First thing we might want to talk about then is the difference between the two courses, which is essentially nil for us. There's no difference in the courses. You might be taking it as English 221, Global Lit, or maybe English 324, the travel writing course, but they are essentially the same, and you'll notice that they even have the same syllabus and the exact same assignments. If we take a look at the syllabus, here it is. This is located in the first D2L post of our semester on our homepage. You can find the assignments on there. You'll find lots of, information, important and unimportant. It's very, very long, and I apologize for that. The syllabus has oversight from a committee for the Travel Study Committee, and so I have to include all these things. But if you need any good information from here, there's the books you need. Of course, you should already have those. The basic things that you really need out of here, and there's just a ton of writing to satisfy university requirements. Here's our pre-departure work. This is the assignment section, right? And this is really the thing you'll pay attention to at some point in the course. Here's our stuff that we do before we leave. Here's the stuff that we do while we're there, which is not much. We do some travel blogging for the university, and you keep a journal. And then for our final project, which we'll talk more about in a bit, you'll see the requirements here. And then lastly, there is a cultural competence essay, 3 to 4 pages, that's written more to satisfy travel study, but I included as part of the grade for the course as well. So that's really the only important part of the syllabus, but all that is to say, there is no difference. We're all doing the same thing. So it doesn't really matter which course you're taking. They are the same. Except for one small thing. The only tiny difference is this. If you're taking 221, which is global literature, your final project needs to comment on London as a point of global contact between cultures. Why? Because you're taking the course as global literature, and so we're looking at cultural difference, multiculturalism, and cultural contact, and potentially conflict or resolution of those conflicts, all those types of things. Now, you might want to talk about those things if you're taking it for 324 travel writing, but a small part of your final project at least, which is a website, not a paper, but a website, and we'll talk more about that in class in a bit in this video. If you're taking 221, a small part of that website has to be dedicated to global contact between cultures. Of course, that could be in the past, Britain's colonial past, right? At one point in the 19th century, Victorian England was 70 to 80% of the globe, essentially, right? All the colonies and whatnot. Of course, we'll be doing a lot of readings and talking a bunch, and your observations in London will prove that there is still plenty of cultural contact in London in the 21st century. So you can look at the past or the present. But just remember, if you're in 221, you have to address this issue at least a little bit in your final project. If you have other things you're interested in, that's fine with me, but this has to be there. Not so for 324. You can talk about whatever you want, and you'll be working out what is worth talking about and what you want to talk about, narrowing it down, and satisfying course requirements with me face to face before we leave, and while we're still over in London too. So otherwise, the homework and the assignments are the same, right? And so is the syllabus. Let's talk about daily homework real quick. Let's take a look at where we can find our readings. I don't have a course calendar. I guess maybe quickly I'll show you this since we just talked about it. Here's where a syllabus is posted. If you need to open that document with the assignment descriptions, it is right here. It's our only document posted for the course. The other thing that you would expect to see in a course is, of course, our reading calendar, our course calendar, for while we are in Winona, online or in Winona. And here it is right here. I kept it real simple. You just have some book readings or sometimes some PDFs that I'm going to put up for you. You can see the first 3 days here, we're reading London, the autobiography, and then we have some PDFs. And then that's sprinkled in with some readings when we have our face-to-face meetings the second week of class. And then we do have a couple presentations before we leave. You'll be giving 2 presentations on that last day of class. They're described here. I'll describe them a bunch more in class. But mainly we just have readings, and then some D2L posts, right? So 1-1, let's say it's your first day. You can see we're just going to read the first third of London, the autobiography. Well, what should you read for and what should you do after you read it? We go here to communication. and then discussion for that. And when you go to the discussion section, I'm sure you've used this before, after the readings, I want you to write about 300 words a night. And basically this is going to be a summary of what you found important and help shape the readings toward just your learning on London in general, to prepare you for the city, all of the history, all of the culture currently as well, and to shape your readings toward using them in your final project, and to give you ideas for your final project, what you might do early on before you really know what you want out of London and what you want to do for a final project, which will be a website covering a theme, cultural, historical, something like that, right? So you can see what I do for the daily homework before you actually read the first third of London, the biography. You could just sit down and read it, but you don't want to. Instead, you want to go here. You want to just take a look at what I've set up for you. I'm giving you some reading suggestions and some questions that you might want to answer with this reading. And I'm kind of telling you how to read it. You can read it however you want, but basically I'm giving you some things to think about that will relate this first third of the London autobiography to the course. And that's what I'm doing every day. If we just kind of scroll through, it doesn't really matter what we're reading. You can see I'm giving you a whole lot of advice. I'm introducing the readings, telling you the types of things you might find and the type of things you might look for, and how you might link it back to your own projects, right, and your ongoing concerns for London. All right, so that's what I'm doing there. And all you have to do to get inside of here is you click on the link. You're going to get a little window that opens. Start a new thread. You're going to get a window that opens. You can go ahead and type your 300 words into there. You see I've usually got anywhere from 2 to 4 questions, so we're talking 50 to 75 word answers typically, something like that, and that'll be fine, capturing your thoughts, your insights, etc. And that's going to be your daily homework. I won't give you written feedback on these. It's just kind of no news is good news. Do a good job, especially for this course. We're just gathering ideas and trying to make sure that everybody has the basics of London in their grip, so to speak. That you know the history, that you know some of the culture, and so you're not a stranger to the city when you get there. And so we have readings across the board. Some are historical. Some are very, very contemporary. Some are sort of sociological and cover some of the little bit of politics that's going on right now. Some are based in cultural differences. Some are literary. We read one play. We read all different types of things, and we try to, make sense of all these things and look for the connections between them. So that is what we are doing there. So that is our daily homework. I usually have it due by midnight of the day. So if this is your reading for a Monday, I'd like you to post your 300 words, read and post by midnight of Monday, as Monday turns to Tuesday, right? If it's a little later than that, summertime job, sometimes maybe you have a late night job, you can do it the next morning or something like that. That's fine. But don't fall too far behind, please. I know summer schedules are challenging, but try not to fall behind. Even especially on the online portion where you might still be working or something like this. So try to keep up, and that would be good, because the reading, there's enough of it during these opening weeks to catch up. All right, so enough on that. Let's go back, take a look at this. That's the daily homework. Try to get in by about midnight or soon after the next morning. Number 2, let's take a look at your major assignments. Let's go back to looking at the web page. Remember that here's our syllabus. We go down a bit, and we're going to find what we're looking for. Here's what you need to do. We'll just outline it real quick. You're going to write 300 words a day, as I just covered. You're going to choose a general class project at some point. Now, these could be a variety of things. Let's actually stop and take a look for a moment. All right, let's take a look at issues that past students have written on. You're going to see all over the board, and you don't have to choose from one of these. There might be something else. As I said, you and I will talk it out one-on-one during class time and when in London as well. So you can talk about differences from the U.S. They should be in social class, immigration, education, the use of public green spaces. There's lots of really interesting parks and green spaces. Some used to be royal land that's been dedicated, and so we can look at just that. We can look at the idea of keeping green space in a highly urban environment with lots of cement and concrete and whatnot, and that can be really fascinating too. The presentation of public issues in publics. What do people talk about in the pubs? What do people talk about in parks? We're going to be seeing that people are much more open to political discussion than in the U.S., and we'll witness some of that when we're there. You could talk about interesting cultural things like British politeness, right? You could go for more of sort of art and architecture, and we can aim in this area. What is British art? How does it speak to some sort of British identity or something like this, right? So we can look at those type of things. The architecture in London, how you preserve the past and the present, right? Childhood in the big city, all different types of things that you see here. So you can see that I'm not really looking for anything in particular. I just want you to find something that you're interested in, and I want you to try to identify this sometime during that first week of class while we're online. If you can start to narrow it down to 1, 2, maybe 3 potential topics, like a list here, then you know what you're reading for. And all these readings up front are really going to help you. And you can start to zero in, like say even during London, the autobiography, which has hundreds of authors in it. You can start to pick the readings that you like the most that you might actually use in your final project. And that would be fantastic. And so that's kind of what we're aiming for here. During these opening weeks. So identify some potential projects in this online week, and then when we get together face to face before we leave, you and I can talk them out. So you've got your daily posts, you've got to choose this theme, hopefully during the online week. At some point you just need to write a 2-source annotated bibliography. We'll talk about that more in class. You might do that just before we leave for London. That's going to be two more research articles to help support your thinking in your project. And you're going to be giving a couple of short presentations on the final Friday of class that we have face-to-face before we go to London. And when we're in London, you're just going to keep a journal. You're going to, during the day or at night when you go home, you're just going to write some reflections on your day, what you saw, what you did. Some of them will relate to your project, and that would be great. If you go to a museum, you can write down some things that you saw that you maybe want to return to in your thinking, or maybe you can find a digital version of it that you can use later in your website or something like this. So that's just up to you. While in London, we're going to blog, and you're going to keep that journal. When we get back from London, you're going to make a website. I'll say a lot more about this face-to-face and before we leave London. But you can see a list of some things that we have, including photos that you took, or maybe some digital artifacts that you see from museums or archives that we visit or something like this, quotations that you're going to weave in to kind of open up each page, and then 300 to 500 words likely per page, about 3,000 words in total anyway we're shooting for on each of your web pages. 300 to 500 on each of your web pages that are, challenging some idea or extending idea that is your own thought or something we read about in class. You might use the readings as a leaping off point. A certain author said this that we read, and you describe that, and then you explain how you saw that during your own observations in London. Or maybe you just have an observation that you made, and you go back into our readings and you see, well, did anybody else comment on this? And you kind of weave together your ideas with somebody else's ideas. And that's great. We have some other advice here. Don't be fact-based. You are kind of making an argument. You're making an observation. We're going to talk more about travel writing and what travel writing is. We're all essentially doing travel writing regardless of what you're taking the course for. So it's kind of, you get to move fast through ideas and make some really qualified generalizations about how culture works or a place works. And that can be really fun and interesting to read. And that's a great thing to do in this course. Last thing you need to do here is just some advice on your 3 to 4 page cultural competence essay that goes off to the travel study office, but also I include in the grade. So there's that. We're running low on time in this video, so let's just talk about what our readings are. Our readings cover London history, culture. Some of them are literary. Some of them, as I said, are sociological. They're all across the board. We've got some famous writers writing essays. We've got people who are not famous at all. We've got everyday people from across history. We've got academics who study social class for one of the things that we'll be reading. And so we've got a really interesting mix. And so the authors or the genre isn't so important. It's the ideas of the readings. They're going to prep you for London, and later, as I said, you can use them as ideas in your project or to spur your thinking on projects. So that's what most of the readings are. Every once in a while, though, and I'm going to tell you this in the D2L setup itself for your daily post, we have some travel writing models that we'll be reading as well. And I will say in the introduction on your D2L daily post, hey gang, this thing we're reading today is a piece of travel writing. Notice how it works. Travel writing works like this and this and this. And so that's actually a model for the type of writing and thinking that you can do when we blog for the university and when you write for your webpage as well. Now, I will say the travel writing thing, if you're not sure what it is, The readings will show that, but also we'll be talking about that when we meet face to face, and we'll spend a great amount of time evaluating what travel writing it is and kind of making it distinct from college writing, academic writing, and those types of things. So don't sweat it too much. So there's a basic intro to our course. Don't forget to do your homework, and we'll see you all soon enough face to face. Thanks.